Hello everybody, it's Jen, Scrapbena Creations. I have 5 cards for you today using the My Monthly Hero Arts Kit for August. For card number 1, I decided to have some fun. I'm going to use some stamping and masking here for 2 of the images from the kit. So I decided to try my hand at doing a unicorn drink that Starbucks put out last year. Now, I don't drink coffee, but this drink was all over Instagram. It was all in the news about having a gazillion calories, and it was just really fun and pretty, and I thought it would be a really fun card to try. So if you're not familiar with the drink, I encourage you to Google the unicorn drink from Starbucks, and it was a pink and blue drink where there wasn't much mixture. So you can see here I'm using pinks R81, R83, and R85 to kind of mimic the way that the drink looks in the pictures. I started off with my lightest color just because I really wasn't sure how this was going to turn out, and then moved into the mid-tone and the darkest. And then I'm going to go back in the reverse order. So the drink also has the same blue and pink colors on top of the whipped topping. So for that, I sort of stippled on the color. So I kind of did a dot technique to make it resemble the little sprinkles. I may actually go back and add either some glitter or some stickles or something to make it actually look more like sprinkles. So here's where I'm adding in the blue. I'm using B06, B04, and B02. So again, going in with the lightest and then moving out towards the darkest until I kind of get it the way I want. So I am pretty happy with how this turned out. It does resemble the drink, although it also kind of, if you don't know what the drink is and saw this card, I feel like you would think I just made a pink and blue camo type of a drink. So, you know, I don't know how that will go over, but regardless, it was a really fun card to make. So I'm doing the whipped topping now. I'm using W1 and W3, and I'm just using this very lightly because I do want there to be some white left. And then I looked at the picture again and I felt like it was more of a yellow color. So I brought in my Y11 here just to add a little bit of the yellow. And then of course the straw for the drink was green to match the Starbucks color. So I'm doing that for the straw, and then I've decided to do the corresponding cup in the green as well. So it's like a traditional Starbucks cup. And with this, I thought it was good because then there could be anything in the drink. So for example, I love to get the chai tea latte, and it doesn't necessarily have to be coffee if you don't want a full coffee themed card. Could also be some hot chocolate in there. So I'm going to do one coat here, and now I'm going back in for my second coat, which will help blend this. I did get a bit of the green on the lid of the cup. I do fix that off screen after the video is done, just using my colorless blender, and you can't even tell. I think my markers need some refilling. I need to invest in some refills for these. So I'm using YG17, YG25, and YG03 for the green. And then I wanted the bottoms of the cups and the lid of the to-go mug to be white. So I'm just using C3, C1, and the colorless blender just to give some shading to the sides of the lid and the base of the cups. I'm going to blend that out with the colorless blender, and it looks white. So for the sentiment, I'm going to use the sentiment that came in the stamp that said, "We're the perfect blend." Thought that was really cute. For some reason, I didn't get it stamped properly on the first try. So I'm going to kind of push down on that really hard. I'm going to use my Versafine ink here again for a couple more stamps, and it comes out nice and black. I do treat my stamps before I use them just with a white eraser to help with the stamping, so I'm not sure what was going on there, but got it to work in the end. I decided to take my Memento Tuxedo black marker here, and I'm going to re-outline both of these images here. Because I stamped them right onto the card panel here without using a stamping tool, it wasn't as dark as I like it. So I just used my marker, and now I'm going to use a Scalloped border die here. This is from My Favorite Things. It's comes in one of the Blueprints Dynamics packages, and I'll leave all the links to everything below in case you're interested in checking that out. So to finish off the card, I'm just going to ground the images. I'm using C1 and my colorless blender, and that will complete card number 1 here. My colorless blender is drying out as well. I need to refill it. So there's card number 1. Cute, fun. And now we're going to move into the coloring for cards number 2 and 3. So I use Spectrum Noir Premium cardstock, which is perfect for alcohol markers. So I'm using some Bs here. I'm using the BG15, BG13, and BG11. The difference between the BG13 and 11 is quite a bit, so I'm just using the tip-to-tip technique here just to get a smoother blend. And I'm going to go over this a second time as well, and you'll see that the colors become so much more vibrant with this second coat of marker. Really love this bluish kind of green, tealy, turquoise color, and I think it works really well with the browns and that I'm going to be using for this particular card. So for the next coffee cup, I'm going to be using some pinks. You'll see here in a second, I'm using my favorite pink combinations, which is the R85, the R83, and the R81. If you're looking for a fabulous pink color combination in Copics, I would highly recommend this one. They blend beautifully together, these 3 markers. So in coloring this cup, I am using the darkest towards the cup on the little saucer here. And then I wanted the actual cup to be darker than the saucer. So I'm using all 3 colors for the saucer, and then for the cup itself, I'm just using the 2 darkest ones, the 85 and the 83. For the coffee, I'm using E27, E18, and E15. And you'll see here I'll need to use the tip-to-tip as well between the 18 and the 15. But I wasn't too worried because I knew that I was going to stamp one of the little decorations on the inside of this coffee here, so you really wouldn't see as much as the coffee as you might think. So I'm going to use the coordinating dies to cut these 2 images out. And then I'll show you a close-up of those complete. And then I'm going to move on to stamping out the little design here with the heart. So I'm using my Versamark. I just used my embossing buddy there so that the embossing powder wouldn't stick to anything but the Versamark. So I'm using the puffy embossing powder that came in the kit. I had to try to get it to stick a few times, you saw there. The one thing that I don't really like about it is it's not consistent, like it looks kind of bubbly. And so I had tried to do it with the steam as well, and I just didn't like the way it came out. So I ended up cutting that straight with the die on some cardstock. So onto card number 2, finally putting it together. I'm using some Canson XL watercolor paper here, and I'm using ground Espresso Distress Oxide. And I'm just using the smishing technique. So you saw there I added quite a bit of water. I wanted to make it look like there was spilt coffee on the card. So I'm just trying to get a design here that I like. I knew that the coffee card was going to go down in that bottom, so you wouldn't be able to see all of it. I'm using the sentiment Life Begins After Coffee, and I'm using my Versafine Black Onyx ink for that. I am going to stamp that out a couple times just to make sure it's nice and crisp and visible on the card. I'm going to pop up the coffee cup on some fun foam after I get the card panel onto the card base. All my cards today are A2 size cards, so 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. Just trying to make sure I didn't get my fingers in the sentiment and get the ink all over the place. So just use some fun foam, like I mentioned, for this coffee cup, and that's card number 2 complete. So here's a close-up of that card. For card number 3, I wanted to use as many of the sentiments as I could. There was just so many awesome sentiments, so I thought it would make a great background for my card. So I used as many as I could. I stamped some of them several times. I'm just kind of placing them here and there wherever I think they might work. I am not going to keep all of this in, so you don't have to worry about being bored, but I just kind of wanted to show you that I started with the long skinny ones first, and then I moved to the larger ones that had 2 lines, and then the smaller sentiments. And that really helped me in terms of positioning things and having the sentiments look like a repeated pattern on the back of this paper. So I'm using Nina Desert Storm cardstock here for that. So this is the last one that I'm going to show, and then I'll move on to start putting the card together. One more time for good luck. So I'm just going to put that card panel onto the card base. And then I'm using some white corrugated cardstock. So this kind of looks like a coffee cup sleeve or holder that you might see on some of the travel mugs. So I just adhered that down. I'm going to stick this turquoisey blue cup here. I put some fun foam, some foam adhesive on the back of the steam, and then there was just a couple gaping holes here, so I used the heart in 3 places that matched the heart on the cup, and then I used the little applicator pen, which is very much like glossy accents, to finish off that card. So for card number 4, I'm using the really pretty coffee and tea dyed paper that came in the kit, but I wanted to just reinforce it. It's very thin, so I'm just using some Recollections 110-pound cardstock and adhering that using my ATG gun. For those of you who have been watching me for a while, you will know that I was having a fighting battle with it, and I ended up buying a new one, and it works like a dream, and I'm so happy to have it back. I do like the Teresa Collins one, but I love my ATG when it works properly. Okay, so for this card, I just decided to use the die and not the stamp. So I cut that out of the paper. I wanted to keep the cut out piece because I want to put the inside of the handle back in. So I used the walnut ink from Lawn Fawn again to stamp the sentiment Espresso Yourself. I'm making a shaker card, so I just adhered the acetate on with some score tape, and now I'm adding some ground coffee into my shaker window. So you can see I used lots of foam adhesive here. I'm going to peel off the release paper, and then I'm going to get this into place. Now, I put too much coffee in here, so you can't actually see the sentiment at all. I like the way it turned out, but I kind of had to come up with a new plan here now that that wasn't going to work. I do make the card over again so you can see it where I don't put as much coffee in, and you can see the sentiment on the background. But I just decided to stamp a sentiment on the outside instead. So it says, "You're the cream to my coffee." got that complete and then felt like it needed a little bit something. So as I was adhering this onto the card base, I was trying to figure out what I could do. And the Lawn Fawn, the new stitched scalloped reverse window dies for the circles, has this really pretty stitched heart in it. So I decided to die cut that out of the Nina Desert Storm cardstock, and I'm going to adhere that to the center of the coffee mug. And I think that looked perfect. So there's that card finished with the coffee shaking around. So fun. And then I'm going to show you here the second one that I did where you can actually read the sentiment. So I think that one turned out fun too. So on to card number 5, the last card. I really wanted to use this pretty die that came in the card kit this month. When I first saw it, I instantly wanted to do like a beach theme, as if you're sitting in a coffee shop on holiday and just kind of enjoying the view, looking out into the ocean. So that's my inspiration for this card. So I'm going to do some beach here, using my favorite combination of distress oxides for the beach, which is antique linen and vintage photo. And I do like to pounce it a little bit, as I find it gives it some texture. So then I'm going to do the ocean, and I'm using tumbled glass and peacock feathers for that. So just doing this really quickly here. I'm using Bristol Smooth cardstock for this card. The oxides just blend so beautifully on the Bristol Smooth. Then I'm going to bring in the salty ocean for the top, which could either be the sky or the continuation of the ocean, whichever you prefer. But it just gives a really pretty ombre effect for the water sky portion of the card. So just going to go back down over that. I'm just going to use the tumbled glass really quickly here. I decided to cut the die using some silver foil. I wasn't really sure what color to use, but I think it ended up looking really pretty. So here I'm just adding some white acrylic paint to where the sand and the ocean meets, just to make it look like some waves. So I'm going to let this dry a little bit, and then I'll show you the die cut here. So this is what it looks like with the foil paper. Now I don't have a metal shim for my Big Shot, so I just ran it through 3 times and it worked perfectly. Everything came out. So I got some adhesive on the back of that. I'm just going to line this up the way that I want it here, and then I'm going to trim down this back panel. This is a little tricky to adhere to paper. I probably should have used some adhesive sheets. Would have made it a little bit easier. I sort of got some glue on the silver part, but you'll see in a second all I do is take a clean paper towel with some water and I just rub it down, and it cleans up the foiled paper nicely. I'm just trying to not to get my hands in the paint there. So I'm just going to hold that down with a stamp block, get that in place. So that is the scene, and then I use the sentiment Take a Break with the walnut ink again from Lawn Fawn. So I hope you enjoyed these cards. If you're new to my channel, please subscribe. I'd love to have you back. I do a lot of 10 card videos or multiple card videos with different kits and collections. Thanks everybody for watching. I'm going to show you all 5 cards here in a second once we do the close-up of card number 5. Didn't that turn out pretty? Don't you just kind of wish you could be like right there right now? So here's the 5 cards in no particular order. Thanks for watching and have a great day. Bye.